Hey, what's going on, everyone? Justin here, and in this video, we're going to be continuing my sort of best of the first half of 2020 video series I've been putting out. In this one, we're going to be doing my favorite, I guess, animal or zoological books that I read in the first half of 2020. I was going to originally just kind of do nature or the life sciences, but I read so much of that I'm kind of splitting off kind of like, I guess, plants and animals. I didn't read enough to do a whole video on just plants, but we'll do like an animal video here, and then the next video that'll come out will be like kind of more just like in general environmental or conservation issues. Just because I've read so many books like on these topics that there was enough to kind of separate them out. Because obviously there is going to be a lot of overlap between them, but obviously the thrust of some books are just going to be a little bit different. Before we get into, let's see, my top three plus one honorable mention. Do want to mention, well, honorable mention, I do want to mention, just sounded goofy when I just said it, is I am co-hosting a really cool nonfiction history readathon in the second half of the month of August, and you're going to hear me talk about this in like every video until it happens and it's like over with, just because I'm super excited about a history readathon. I'll put my announcement video in a card or whatever up there, and the link down below. So if you're really into nonfiction or history, definitely go ahead and check that out. It means a lot to me. Like I said, I'm just super excited for a history readathon. Okay, now let's go on to, like I said, my top three plus an honorable mention of my favorite animal related books of 2020 so far. And I'm pretty sure none of these were actually published in 2020. No, one was. Actually, number one was. But I think the other three were not. No. Actually, no, I lied. Man, that's why I should write this stuff down. Two of them were published in 2020 because I got them from NetGalley, so you'd think I would know that, but all right, so let's just go ahead and get started with the honorable mention. I read this one on a Kindle, but I do have a physical book by the same author, so I'm just gonna hold this one up. This one's Four Fish. The book I read this year is American Catch. I read this one last year, and this one dealt with, looks like, salmon, tuna, sea bass, and cod. American Catch deals with New York oysters, Gulf shrimp, and Alaskan salmon. And what he does is, in both of these books are fairly similar. He profiles that particular fish or seafood and kind of goes over its entire history of being harvested or exploited, or a combination of those two things kind of over time. And then he kind of deals sort of with the biology and ecology of that particular species and why they're important to the environment, things like that. And then what can be done to sort of bring it back or kind of fix the problem or kind of prevent it from being exploited. For example, in the case of Alaskan salmon, which has been declining recently, bringing back kind of the restoration and conservation of the New York oysters, which have not been really a thing for a long time, not actually edible and stuff. And then how to keep, the shrimp harvest viable, stuff like that. So I just really enjoy kind of like almost like little micro histories of each of those species, I suppose you could say. Yeah, kind of like a micro history. But anyways, I like also how he kind of deals with the pros and cons of everything. He's he's really knowledgeable about aquaculture and fish farming, stuff like that. But he always points out the pros and cons of pretty much every possible solution. And he readily admits a lot of times there really is no kind of nice and easy, just sort of, super green answer to everything. And the big takeaway I got with American Catch is most of the high quality seafood that Americans harvest from American waters each year gets kind of exported to other countries. The vast majority does, and then we import lower quality farmed fish from other countries in its place. So it's kind of like a bizarre kind of like net loss in like nutrients and stuff. So it was kind of a weird just kind of deep dive into that. But it was very enlightening in regards to that. So definitely check those out if you're into like aquaculture, learning about, seafood, stuff like that. All right. Now for number three on my list was a NetGalley read, and it is Cattail. And oh boys, I should have wrote it down. Craig Pittman, I think, is the author. This is all about the restoration and conservation of the Florida panther. I requested this one particularly because I grew up in Florida. Even though back then when I was younger, I wasn't into like nature or conservation or anything, it was still I kind of want to learn about, my previous state's animal. But yeah, it was kind of interesting to learn just how drastically the population declined. Like, it was literally in double digits. Most likely it was for a while, they weren't even, a lot of scientists in the like the first half of the 1900s didn't even know if there really was any panthers left for quite some time. And it's kind of neat seeing sort of the characters that were involved. A professional trapper from Texas who primarily was like just well known for hunting and trapping coyotes and wolves and stuff. Basically got like wrangled to go to Florida and become like a master mountain lion tracker. And like I said, he is a character. And then all the scientists kind of get involved, dealing with kind of trying to find, in the Everglades, trying to find the Florida panther. So I keep saying like mountain lion and panther. It's actually, they're all subspecies of the same genus. And actually, once a small population was established, they kind of realized that inbreeding was going on and it was causing obviously health, not DNA and health damage to the animals, and the populations were not going to be viable in the long run due to kind of the depleted gene pool. So what they came up with was basically to take some Texas mountain lions, put them in the Florida ecosystem, and have them kind of interbreed, and that actually did wonders, and the Florida panther population is totally recovered. The big takeaway with this book is how badly a lot of the government agencies that are supposed to be kind of on conservation side, like that's literally their whole like purpose of different like kind of sub branches of the EPA and stuff, how little teeth they actually have, and how easily it is like corrupted and bribed and stuff. There's like I said, this one you got to read just for like certain characters. There's one scientist who kind of wanted to become known as basically the greatest like Florida panther scientist ever, but he used like really terrible data and still was able to get published based on a variety of reasons and stuff, and everyone was using his pretty much completely bogus numbers and stuff to be like, oh wow, the panthers are like doing really great, we don't need to like save any of the environment and stuff. And just for an example, like some of the agencies, were requiring, obviously you have to have sort of like a damage management plan and stuff when you have like plans to build like an airport or a college or whatever. You got to have like an impact statement to see like the local wildlife and the ecosystem, what's gonna like happen and everything. And for example, like some of them got away with basically, yeah, we're gonna develop, we bought this 10,000 acre property, for example, and we're gonna obviously just completely knock everything down for 5,000 acres, but we're gonna leave 5,000 acres alone. So really, you're actually still getting the same amount back, and everyone just like approves it. And it doesn't make sense because you're still losing the 5,000 acres. It doesn't matter that 5,000 acres aren't getting like utilized and stuff. It just didn't make like any sense. And like I said, the agencies were just like approving it because of basically corruption and stuff. So it was kind of disheartening just to see how easy that is to occur and stuff. And then another book I read kind of at the same time, War of the Whales, dealing with Navy sonar forcing whales to beach and stuff because it was like messing with their brains and whatnot, obviously just because of the crazy decibel volumes that were being blasted and whatnot. The same sort of thing at the federal level was kind of going on, so it's kind of disheartening to see how the agencies that are supposed to be like kind of protecting the environment, and that's literally their sole purpose, just kind of like rubber stamp stuff, either because it's the military or corrupt politicians and stuff. So it's kind of disheartening, but it's still fun to learn all about the Florida panther, and it is a actual pretty good conservation success story, going from, like I said, 10, 20, 30 individuals into the hundreds, at least. And of course, they're a pretty big carnivorous mammal, so they need quite a bit of room to kind of breed and populate and stuff. So they'll never be like, in the thousands and whatnot. But all right, let's go on to book number 2. Okay, now let's move on to book number 2, and in kind of contrast to the previous book, this one's much more lighthearted, and it's The Wasp That Brainwashed the Caterpillar, Evolution's Most Unbelievable Solutions to Life's Biggest Problems by Matt Simon. And it's exactly what you think it's going to be based on that title. It's just a super quirky, fun read all about the most like ridiculous ways that certain animals have evolved or adapted to meet certain needs, whether that's like finding shelter or a place to live, finding mates, and finding being able to get food and whatnot. So for example, you have like the tongue-eating isopods, you got like the mustache toads, you got like the lightning fast mantis shrimp, all kind of naked mole rats and kind of their abilities. And you just got everything kind of thrown together, but it's a super quick, kind of lighthearted read, and you're smiling the whole time, just how like quirky and silly everything is. But it's all factual and true, which is what makes it really cool. But it's got some illustrations kind of thrown throughout as well, kind of just to like help you get a picture of certain things. Obviously you got like the anglerfish, pretty well known, like goofy, like crazy abilities and stuff. So like I said, there's not like a whole lot to it per se, but it's definitely like a fun read. And for someone like just wanting to like get into reading about animal stuff, this would be a great way to do that. All right, and for my favorite animal book of the year so far in 2020 is The Language of Butterflies by Wendy Williams. I read her book last year called The Horse Biography, and I thought it was really well done, even though I'm not like a super big fan of horses per se compared to some people. Like, trust me, I remember when I used to work at the animal hospital, I'd say like 3/4 of everyone I worked with had like horses and whatnot, and that was all they talked about. But anyways, this one, The Language of Butterflies, deals with the entire history of butterflies, kind of like quite a bit of their biology and ecology. I wish there's a little bit more of that maybe, but she definitely includes quite a bit of that. Then also kind of like the history of people studying them, whether, going from discombobulated Darwin with some of the species that were able to like kind of evolve and adapt really quickly and kind of mimic other ones. For example, like the viceroy butterfly mimicking monarch butterflies. But also other kind of lesser well-known entomologists, such as, I feel really terrible now. One of her names is I assume it's her first name is Miriam. I will put her actual name like right there. And she was like one of the first like modern age like female scientists. I think she was Bavarian, but lived in the Netherlands. But what makes her like super cool is she painted and wrote all her like scientific work. She has a giant watercolor book of butterflies and caterpillars and whatnot. But she went to South America to study them herself, and this is like in this like around the turn of like the 1700s, I believe, in the like 1600s, early 1700s. So for her to like kind of publish her own scientific writings with her own observations and drawings and illustrations and stuff was just super cool. Like I said, I'll leave a link, or I'll leave her name right here and a link to maybe like her Wikipedia or something, so you can learn more about her, because she's super important and I feel really dumb for forgetting her last name. I have no idea why. But anyways, but it also deals, the author kind of covers like butterfly conservation that's kind of going on in the modern age, whether that's with the large blue in England, which was like a huge conservation project that had kind of gone on for about 10-15 years, I believe in the 70s and 80s. And it kind of brought like the whole the field of ecology to get, I mean, it obviously had been a thing, but it was like the first time ecology had like really been fully realized how complicated everything and how interconnected everything has to be for a species like restoration, or bringing back extirpated species such as the large blue back to a certain area. Oh, and especially obviously with monarch butterflies, probably the most well-known butterfly in the world, especially in the United States. But you learn all about the monarch caterpillar and milkweed, and how it's a love-hate relationship between the caterpillars and milkweed, as that is how they become toxic to other animals, for example. But for the caterpillar, it can be toxic and fatal to them, just because they usually gorge themselves on it. It's the only plant they can eat. However, it's very like sticky and latexy or something, and it can actually kind of glue their mouth shut, and they can drown in it and stuff. And a lot of caterpillars that's what happens to them. But if they survive through it, they become poisonous to other animals, and that's why a lot of things don't really go after monarch butterflies later in life. So like I said, you learn all about butterflies, and you kind of like, it's cool like learning about like the kind of like the historiography of them. For example, like it was kind of neat learning about like the medieval, I guess, what the medieval conceptions of butterflies and how they like respected them and like thought about them. I had never like read that in any of my like medieval books and stuff, but it was kind of like interesting to learn. So like I said, it has a good blend of kind of like vignettes from scientists, whether that's collectors and hoarders and scientists, all kinds of people. You got the science and then you also have the modern day kind of conservation ecology. So it's got like all three things I really enjoy in an animal nature book. So that's why I'm giving first place so far to The Language of Butterflies by Wendy Williams. All right, so let me know some recommendations that you've read about animal books that you've really enjoyed in the past. Always on the lookout for nature and animal and conservation and environmental books. So if you got any good animal books, leave some comments down below. I'd be glad to check them out for sure. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to check out all the plugs. We've got Instagram and Twitter and Etsy and the website, all that kind of stuff. And always remember, whether you're reading I just say Hannibal books. I do have Hannibal books though up there. They're not Hannibal the Cannibal, Hannibal Barca, but anyways, whether you're reading animal books or not, always remember, read victoriously.